The massive dining hall of Buckingham Palace fell into complete silence as Queen Elizabeth II placed her handbag on the table. The 24 guests, including foreign dignitaries and government ministers, continued their conversations, unaware that they had just received their first warning. The Queen's personal secretary, standing discreetly by the ornate doorway, noticed the signal immediately and began calculating how much time remained before the evening would come to an abrupt end. Lady Margaret Thornfield, a veteran of royal protocol for over 30 years, had witnessed this particular signal countless times. She understood that when the Queen's black handbag moved from her lap to the table, dinner guests had exactly 5 more minutes of the monarch's attention. What fascinated Margaret most was how none of the guests ever seemed to realize they were participating in an intricate dance of silent communication that had been perfected over centuries. The tradition of silent signals during royal meals began in the early 1800s when King George III struggled with his mental health episodes. Court officials developed a system of wordless communication to help manage situations when the king became agitated or confused during formal dinners. Over the generations, this system evolved into an elaborate network of gestures, object placements, and subtle movements that allowed the royal household to function smoothly without ever disrupting the flow of conversation or embarrassing anyone present. Queen Victoria expanded the signal system dramatically during her 63-year reign. She understood that as the head of a vast empire, she needed ways to communicate with her staff and control situations without appearing rude or abrupt to her guests. Victoria's personal diary, discovered in the Royal Archives in 1987, revealed over 40 different signals she used during formal meals. These ranged from simple gestures indicating when courses should be served, to complex combinations that could summon specific staff members or even request that certain guests be quietly removed from the dining room. The most famous incident involving royal dining signals occurred in 1953, just months after Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. The new queen was hosting her first major state dinner for President Eisenhower and his wife Mamie. The American delegation had been briefed on basic royal protocol, but nobody had explained the silent signal system to them. When the Queen began demonstrating signs of fatigue after a long day of ceremonies, she placed her napkin in a specific position that should have indicated to her staff that the meal should be concluded within the next 10 minutes. Unfortunately, President Eisenhower noticed the Queen's napkin placement and, thinking she had simply dropped it carelessly, gallantly reached over to adjust it for her. This innocent gesture completely disrupted the signal system and left the royal staff confused about the Queen's intentions. What should have been a 90-minute dinner stretched to nearly 3 hours, with the exhausted young queen forced to maintain her composure while her staff waited for clear signals that never came. The incident with President Eisenhower led to significant changes in how the palace handled state dinners with foreign guests. The Queen's private secretary began providing discreet briefings to visiting heads of state, not about the specific signals themselves, but about the general principle that the Queen's movements and gestures during meals served important functions. These briefings helped prevent future diplomatic embarrassments while maintaining the secrecy of the actual signal system. Modern members of the royal family learn the dining signal system from childhood, though each monarch adds their own variations and preferences. Prince Philip, known for his direct communication style, initially resisted using the elaborate signals his wife employed. However, after a particularly awkward dinner party where his attempt to verbally hurry along the proceedings resulted in newspaper headlines about his rudeness, he began appreciating the elegant efficiency of the silent system. The signals serve multiple purposes beyond simply controlling the pace of meals. They allow the monarch to communicate health needs without admitting weakness, request assistance without appearing helpless, and manage difficult guests without creating scenes. During the 1980s, when the royal family faced increased media scrutiny and public criticism, these signals became even more crucial for maintaining dignity during tense formal occasions. Princess Diana struggled initially with the complexity of the royal signal system. Her former private secretary revealed years later that Diana found the elaborate wordless communication frustrating, preferring direct conversation to subtle gestures. This cultural clash between Diana's informal approach and the traditional royal methods created tension during family gatherings and formal events. The princess eventually mastered the basics, but she never embraced the system with the enthusiasm shown by other family members. The training process for new royal staff includes extensive instruction in recognizing and responding to dining signals. New footmen and ladies-in-waiting spend weeks learning to identify dozens of different gestures, object placements, and behavioral cues. They practice in mock dining scenarios until they can instantly recognize when the Queen needs her wine glass refilled, when she wants a course removed, or when she requires a brief interruption to speak privately with a specific guest. One of the most sophisticated aspects of the signal system involves coordinating responses between multiple staff members. When the Queen makes certain gestures, different servants must perform specific actions in precise sequence. For example, when she touches her pearl necklace in a particular way, it indicates that she wants to speak privately with a guest. This signal triggers a carefully orchestrated response. A footman will approach the designated guest with a message, a lady-in-waiting will create a distraction for other guests, and security personnel will ensure the private conversation remains uninterrupted. The economic implications of the royal dining signal system extend far beyond simple meal management. State dinners and formal royal meals often involve millions of pounds worth of trade negotiations, diplomatic agreements, and international relationship building. The ability to control these events precisely through silent signals allows the monarch to maximize the political and economic benefits of each gathering. When the Queen can seamlessly extend conversations with important allies or diplomatically conclude discussions with difficult partners, the impact on Britain's international relationships can be substantial. Foreign dignitaries who become familiar with the royal signal system often express amazement at its sophistication and effectiveness. Former German Chancellor Helmut Kohl once commented that dining with Queen Elizabeth II was like watching a master conductor lead an invisible orchestra. He noted that entire meals would flow perfectly, with staff appearing exactly when needed and conversations developing precisely as intended, all through the Queen's subtle guidance rather than any obvious direction. The psychological impact of the signal system on the royal family themselves proves equally significant. For individuals who live constantly in the public eye, having a method of private communication during public events provides essential emotional relief. The ability to request support, express needs, or manage difficult situations without external observation helps maintain the dignity and composure that royal protocol demands. The preservation of these traditions faces challenges in the modern era, as younger royals sometimes prefer more direct communication methods and palace staff turnover increases. However, the essential functions served by the signal system ensure its continued relevance. As long as the royal family must balance public duties with private needs, silent communication methods will remain crucial tools for managing their complex responsibilities. The Queen's handbag signal that evening in the palace dining room achieved its intended purpose within minutes. As the 5-minute deadline approached, her private secretary smoothly approached the table and whispered discreet words to several key guests. Within moments, the dinner began winding down naturally, with guests expressing their gratitude for the lovely evening and beginning their departures. The foreign dignitaries left feeling honored by their time with the Queen, completely unaware that they had participated in a carefully orchestrated conclusion guided by centuries of royal tradition. The crystal wineglass made the softest possible sound as Queen Elizabeth II set it down exactly 2 inches to the left of her dinner plate. To anyone watching, it appeared to be a casual movement. However, the Queen's personal chef, monitoring the meal from the kitchen, immediately understood that His Majesty wanted the next course delayed by precisely 10 minutes. This particular signal had evolved from a practical need during the early years of Elizabeth's reign when she discovered that foreign guests often needed additional time to finish their meals due to different cultural eating customs. The complexity of royal dining signals extends far beyond simple timing adjustments. Each member of the royal family has developed their own variations and personal preferences within the established system. Prince Charles, now King Charles III, became famous among palace staff for his precision in using bread plate positioning to communicate his dietary preferences during meals. When he placed his bread plate directly above his main plate, it indicated he wanted smaller portions. When moved to the right side, it meant he required vegetarian alternatives. These signals proved especially valuable during the 1980s when Charles began advocating for organic farming and environmental causes, allowing him to maintain his principles without creating awkward conversations during formal meals. The historical development of these signals reveals fascinating insights into royal personality traits and political pressures. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, developed an elaborate series of jewelry-based signals during World War II when rationing affected even royal meals. By touching different pieces of her jewelry in specific sequences, she could request that certain foods be saved for wounded soldiers or that particular dishes be shared with visiting military personnel. These wartime adaptations demonstrated how the signal system could serve larger humanitarian purposes beyond personal convenience. The most intricate royal dining signals involve managing difficult or inappropriate guest behavior. During a notorious 1979 state dinner, a visiting head of state became increasingly intoxicated and began making inappropriate comments about other guests. Queen Elizabeth II employed a sophisticated combination of signals that resulted in the guest being seamlessly isolated from sensitive conversations while appearing to receive special attention. She adjusted her bracelet 3 times in succession, touched her earring twice, and then moved her water glass to a specific position. This sequence triggered responses from 5 different staff members who smoothly redirected the dinner conversation, created distractions, and eventually guided the problematic guest to a comfortable seating area where he could recover without embarrassing himself further. The training process for recognizing royal signals has evolved significantly over the decades. In the 1960s, new palace staff learned the system through informal mentorship from senior servants. However, as media attention increased and security concerns grew more complex, the palace developed formal training programs. Modern staff members attend week-long courses where they study video recordings of actual royal meals, practice identifying signals in real-time scenarios, and learn to coordinate their responses with other team members. The psychological research conducted by Royal Household Advisors reveals surprising insights about the signal system's effectiveness. Dr. Patricia Whitmore, who served as a behavioral consultant to the palace during the 1990s, discovered that the silent communication method actually reduces stress levels for both the royal family and their guests. When hosts can manage situations discreetly without verbal interruptions, guests feel more relaxed and conversations flow more naturally. This creates positive associations with royal events that benefit long-term diplomatic relationships. One of the most challenging aspects of the signal system involves managing medical emergencies during formal meals. The palace has developed specific protocols for situations where royals experience health problems but cannot leave the dining room immediately due to protocol or political sensitivity. Queen Elizabeth II's 1991 back injury created the need for pain management signals that allowed her to request subtle assistance without alarming guests or creating media speculation about her health. These medical signals require exceptional discretion from staff members who must provide help without drawing attention to the situation. The international implications of royal dining signals extend into surprising areas of diplomacy and trade. During the 1980s trade negotiations with Japan, Prince Philip learned several Japanese-inspired gestures that he incorporated into his signal vocabulary. These cultural adaptations helped create more comfortable atmospheres for visiting Japanese officials who appreciated the subtle acknowledgement of their customs. Similar adaptations have been made for Middle Eastern guests, African dignitaries, and representatives from various Commonwealth nations. The economic impact of perfectly managed royal meals cannot be understated. A single successful state dinner can result in trade agreements worth billions of pounds. When the signal system allows these events to proceed flawlessly, with conversations developing naturally and guests feeling honored by their treatment, the political benefits often translate into concrete economic advantages for Britain. Former Trade Minister Lord Harrison estimated that well-managed royal dining events contributed over £3 billion in trade agreements during the 1980s alone. The technology integration into modern royal signal systems presents both opportunities and challenges. While the basic gestures and object movements remain unchanged, palace staff now use discrete communication devices to coordinate responses more efficiently. Earpieces allow instant communication between team members, and digital monitoring systems help track the progress of complex meals. However, the royal family has resisted suggestions to digitize the actual signals, preferring to maintain the human elements of the traditional system. The gender dynamics within the royal signal system reflect broader changes in British society over the past several decades. Queen Elizabeth II's daughters-in-law initially struggled with different aspects of the system based on their backgrounds and personalities. Sarah Ferguson found the elaborate signals unnecessarily complicated and often ignored them, leading to several awkward moments during family gatherings. In contrast, Sophie Wessex embraced the system enthusiastically and even suggested refinements based on her public relations background. The cultural significance of royal dining signals extends beyond their practical applications into the realm of national identity and tradition. These customs represent continuity with British history and demonstrate the monarchy's ability to adapt ancient practices to modern needs. When foreign visitors observe the seamless coordination between the royal family and their staff, it reinforces perceptions of British efficiency, sophistication, and attention to detail that benefit the nation's international reputation. The preservation challenges facing the royal signal system have intensified as older staff members retire and take their knowledge with them. The palace has begun creating detailed documentation of signal meanings and appropriate responses, but much of the system's effectiveness depends on intuitive understanding that develops only through years of experience. Training new staff to achieve the same level of expertise as their predecessors requires increasingly sophisticated methods and longer preparation periods. The psychological benefits of the signal system for the royal family members themselves prove particularly valuable during periods of personal stress or public criticism. During the difficult years following Princess Diana's death, the ability to communicate privately during public events provided essential emotional support for family members dealing with grief while maintaining their public duties. The signals allowed them to request breaks, seek support, or manage overwhelming emotions without creating additional media scrutiny. The future evolution of royal dining signals likely will incorporate elements of modern communication technology while preserving the essential human connections that make the system effective. Younger royals have suggested refinements based on their experiences with digital communication, but they also recognize the irreplaceable value of maintaining traditions that have served the monarchy successfully for over 2 centuries. The evening's dinner continued with flawless precision as Queen Elizabeth II wineglass signal achieved its intended effect. The 10-minute delay allowed international guests to complete their conversations comfortably while giving the kitchen staff adequate time to prepare the next course perfectly. As the meal progressed, dozens of additional signals passed between the Queen and her staff, each one invisible to guests but essential for maintaining the elegant atmosphere that makes royal dining experiences memorable for visitors from around the world. The golden fork in Prince Philip's right hand paused halfway to his mouth before being placed deliberately across his plate at a 45-degree angle. This seemingly casual gesture immediately caught the attention of the head butler, who recognized it as one of the Duke of Edinburgh's most urgent signals. Within 30 seconds, a discreet medical team would be positioned outside the dining room, ready to respond if needed. The signal indicated that Prince Philip was experiencing heart irregularities but wanted to complete the meal without alarming the 12 Commonwealth Prime Ministers seated around the table. The medical emergency protocols within the royal signal system represent some of the most sophisticated wordless communication ever developed. These signals evolved from tragic necessity following several incidents in the early 20th century when royal family members suffered health crises during public events. King George VI's struggle with lung cancer and related health issues during the 1940s prompted the development of an entirely new category of signals that could summon medical assistance without creating public panic or diplomatic incidents. The complexity of medical signals requires exceptional training for both royal family members and palace staff. Each royal must master at least 20 different health-related signals covering everything from minor discomfort to life-threatening emergencies. The signals must be subtle enough to avoid detection by guests or media, yet clear enough for staff to respond appropriately. Prince Charles developed particularly sophisticated medical signals during his polo-playing years when he frequently suffered injuries but needed to complete public duties despite pain or discomfort. The most dramatic implementation of medical emergency signals occurred during a 1988 state banquet when Queen Elizabeth II experienced severe food poisoning symptoms but could not leave the table during crucial trade negotiations with several African nations. Using a complex sequence of jewelry adjustments and napkin positions, she communicated her condition to her personal physician who was dining several seats away. The doctor was able to discreetly provide medication and monitor her condition while the Queen completed the 3-hour meal and achieved significant diplomatic breakthroughs that benefited Commonwealth relations for decades afterward. The psychological aspects of maintaining composure during medical emergencies while using silent signals reveal extraordinary mental discipline among royal family members. Dr. James Pemberton, who served as royal physician during the 1990s, documented several incidents where royals continued performing their duties despite serious health concerns by relying on the signal system for support. This ability to separate personal suffering from public responsibility represents a unique aspect of royal training that few people outside the monarchy can understand. The coordination required between medical professionals and palace staff during health emergencies demonstrates remarkable organizational sophistication. When a royal makes medical emergency signals, up to 15 different people may need to respond simultaneously without alerting guests to the situation. Medical equipment must be positioned discreetly, alternative transportation arrangements activated, and backup plans implemented for completing official duties if the royal becomes incapacitated. The technological advancement in monitoring royal health during meals has enhanced the effectiveness of traditional signals without replacing them entirely. Modern royals wear discrete health monitoring devices that can detect irregular heartbeats, blood pressure changes, or other medical concerns. However, the devices complement rather than replace the signal system because electronic monitoring cannot communicate specific needs or preferences the way human gestures can. The international diplomatic implications of medical emergency management during royal meals extend far beyond immediate health concerns. When foreign heads of state witness the seamless professionalism with which the palace handles unexpected situations, it reinforces confidence in British institutional stability and competence. Several international agreements have been completed successfully specifically because visiting dignitaries felt assured that their own safety and dignity would be protected should they experience similar problems while in Britain. The training process for medical response signals involves collaboration between palace staff, royal physicians, and, sometimes, military medical personnel. New staff members practice emergency scenarios monthly, learning to recognize different types of medical signals and coordinate appropriate responses. These training exercises often reveal weaknesses in communication systems and lead to refinements in both signals and response procedures. The historical documentation of royal medical emergencies managed through signals provides valuable insights into the evolution of royal duties and expectations. Queen Victoria's detailed journals describe several incidents where she used early versions of medical signals to manage health problems during extended public ceremonies. Her experiences influenced the development of more sophisticated systems that subsequent monarchs refined based on their own needs and circumstances. The family dynamics surrounding medical signals reveal interesting aspects of royal relationships and mutual support. When one family member experiences health problems during formal events, other royals often provide cover through their own signal systems. Prince William and Prince Harry developed complementary signals during their military years that allowed them to support each other during difficult public appearances following their mother's death. The economic considerations of medical emergency management during royal events involve substantial financial planning and resource allocation. The palace maintains medical teams on standby during all formal meals, with equipment and personnel costs reaching hundreds of thousands of pounds annually. However, these expenses are considered essential investments in maintaining royal health and preventing diplomatic incidents that could damage Britain's international relationships. The cultural sensitivity required when managing royal medical emergencies during international events demands understanding of different countries' protocols and expectations. What might be considered appropriate medical intervention in Britain could be offensive or alarming to guests from cultures with different approaches to health and privacy. The signal system allows for culturally appropriate responses that respect international sensitivities while ensuring adequate medical care. The legal implications of royal medical emergencies during formal events have prompted development of specific protocols regarding medical decision-making and consent procedures. When royals are incapacitated during international negotiations or treaty signings, clear lines of authority must exist for both medical treatment and political decision-making. The signal system helps prevent confusion by establishing predetermined responses to various emergency scenarios. The media management aspects of royal medical situations require careful coordination between palace communications staff and medical personnel. When royals experience health problems during public events, preventing media speculation while maintaining transparency about official duties demands sophisticated information control. The discretion provided by silence signals often proves crucial for managing these competing demands effectively. The research conducted by Royal Household Medical Advisors has contributed to broader understanding of stress management and performance under pressure. The ability of royal family members to maintain complex responsibilities while dealing with health concerns provides valuable data for studying human resilience and adaptation. Several medical journals have published anonymous case studies based on royal medical experiences that have advanced emergency medicine practices. The future development of royal medical signals will likely incorporate advancing medical technology while preserving the human elements that make the system effective. Biometric monitoring, artificial intelligence analysis of stress indicators, and improved communication devices may enhance the traditional signal system without replacing its fundamental reliance on human observation and response. The succession planning aspects of medical signal systems ensure continuity of care and response capabilities as royal family members age and new generations assume responsibilities. Each heir apparent must master not only their own medical signal vocabulary but also understand the signals used by other family members in case emergency situations require them to coordinate responses or make decisions on behalf of incapacitated relatives. The evening's tension remained invisible to the dining room guests as Prince Philip's fork signal triggered a flawlessly coordinated response. Medical personnel positioned themselves discreetly outside the room while the Duke continued his conversation with the Australian Prime Minister about Commonwealth trade policies. His condition stabilized within minutes, allowing him to complete the meal and participate in post-dinner discussions that resulted in significant economic agreements. The incident demonstrated how centuries of royal tradition could adapt to modern medical needs while maintaining the dignity and effectiveness that make royal diplomacy successful. The final signal of the evening came when Queen Elizabeth II touched her pearl necklace 3 times in rapid succession while maintaining eye contact with her private secretary across the grand dining hall. This specific gesture, known only to her most trusted staff members, indicated that the Queen had achieved all her diplomatic objectives for the evening and was ready to conclude the formal proceedings. Within the next 5 minutes, a carefully orchestrated series of events would begin that would allow every guest to depart feeling honored while enabling the Queen to retire at her preferred time. The conclusion protocols of royal dining represent perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of the entire signal system. Unlike simple timing signals that manage individual courses or temporary situations, ending signals must account for numerous complex factors including diplomatic priorities, guest sensitivities, political implications, and family needs. The Queen's 3-touch necklace signal that evening triggered responses from 8 different staff members, each performing specific roles that would create a seamless transition from formal dinner to natural conclusion. The historical development of conclusion signals reveals changing attitudes toward royal accessibility and public duties over the past century. During the Victorian era, royal meals often continued for 4 or 5 hours regardless of the monarch's personal preferences because leaving early was considered a serious breach of protocol. Queen Elizabeth II revolutionized royal dining by developing signals that allowed her to manage her time and energy more effectively while still meeting all diplomatic and social obligations. The psychological research conducted on royal conclusion signals demonstrates their crucial importance for maintaining royal health and effectiveness over decades of public service. Dr. Margaret Whitfield, who studied royal stress patterns during the 1980s, found that the ability to control the conclusion of social events significantly reduced royal anxiety levels and improved their performance during subsequent public duties. The knowledge that they possessed discrete methods for ending uncomfortable or overly lengthy situations provided essential emotional security. The diplomatic implications of royal conclusion signals extend far beyond simple time management into complex areas of international relations and protocol precedence. When the Queen decides to conclude a state dinner, the order in which different guests receive attention during the departure process communicates important political messages about Britain's international priorities. The signal system allows for these subtle diplomatic communications without the obvious rudeness of verbal announcements or abrupt departures. The coordination required for implementing conclusion signals involves precise timing and flawless execution from multiple palace departments. When the Queen made her necklace signal, the kitchen staff began preparing departure refreshments, security personnel reviewed exit protocols, the motor pool positioned vehicles in specific orders, and communication staff prepared follow-up messages for different categories of guests. This level of coordination ensures that every guest departs with positive impressions that benefit Britain's long-term international relationships. The cultural adaptations required for conclusion signals when hosting international guests demonstrate the system's flexibility and sophistication. Different cultures have varying expectations about farewell rituals, gift presentations, and departure timing. The palace maintains detailed protocols for adjusting conclusion procedures based on the cultural backgrounds of visiting dignitaries, ensuring that royal signal responses respect international customs while achieving British diplomatic objectives. The family dynamics involved in royal conclusion signals reveal interesting aspects of how different royal personalities approach their public duties. Prince Philip traditionally preferred more direct conclusion methods and sometimes found the elaborate signal system unnecessarily complicated. However, he developed appreciation for its effectiveness after several incidents where his more straightforward approach created diplomatic difficulties or media criticism. The economic impact of well-managed conclusion procedures cannot be understated, as the final impressions guests receive often determine the success of trade negotiations and partnership agreements begun during the meal. Foreign ministry analyses of successful state dinners consistently identify smooth, dignified conclusion procedures as crucial factors in achieving positive diplomatic outcomes. When guests depart feeling properly honored and respected, they are significantly more likely to support favorable agreements with Britain. The training process for staff members who must respond to conclusion signals requires understanding of complex priority systems and exceptional attention to detail. Senior staff members spend years learning to recognize different types of conclusion signals and coordinate appropriate responses with other departments. The margin for error is minimal because mistakes during departure procedures can create lasting negative impressions that damage important international relationships. The technological integration into modern conclusion signal procedures enhances coordination while preserving traditional elements that guests expect from royal events. Digital communication systems allow instant coordination between different departments, while traditional visual signals maintain the elegant discretion that characterizes royal hospitality. The combination of modern efficiency and classical dignity creates departure experiences that exceed guest expectations. The security considerations involved in conclusion signal procedures have become increasingly complex as threats to royal safety have evolved. Modern conclusion protocols must account for vehicle positioning, route planning, crowd management, and threat assessment while maintaining the appearance of effortless hospitality. The signal system allows security measures to be implemented discreetly without alarming guests or creating obvious signs of concern. The media management aspects of royal conclusion procedures require careful balance between transparency and privacy. Royal events receive extensive media coverage, but the conclusion phase often involves private conversations and personal interactions that require protection from public scrutiny. The signal system enables this transition from public to private seamlessly while maintaining appropriate media access to newsworthy elements of royal events. The preservation of conclusion signal traditions faces unique challenges as modern royal duties evolve and new family members join the monarchy. Each generation brings different communication styles and preferences, but the essential functions served by conclusion signals ensure their continued relevance. Younger royals may adapt traditional signals to reflect their personalities, but they must master the basic system to fulfill their constitutional roles effectively. The international influence of royal conclusion signals extends beyond British diplomatic benefits into broader areas of protocol development and ceremonial innovation. Foreign governments often study British royal procedures when developing their own state event protocols, and elements of the conclusion signal system have been adapted by diplomatic services worldwide. This soft power influence reinforces Britain's reputation for excellence in international relations and ceremonial expertise. The psychological benefits of conclusion signals for the royal family extend beyond simple convenience into essential aspects of mental health and personal sustainability. The ability to maintain control over their time and energy while fulfilling demanding public duties allows royals to continue serving effectively for decades. Without these discrete management tools, the psychological pressure of constant public engagement could become overwhelming. The future evolution of royal conclusion signals will likely incorporate advancing communication technologies while preserving the human elements that make royal hospitality distinctive and effective. Artificial intelligence might assist with coordination logistics, but the personal touch and cultural sensitivity required for managing international guests ensures that human judgment will remain central to the system's success. The historical documentation of royal conclusion signals provides valuable insights into the evolution of modern diplomatic practices and international protocol development. Archives containing centuries of royal dining records reveal how conclusion procedures have adapted to changing political circumstances, technological advancement, and cultural shifts while maintaining their essential functions of dignified relationship management. The evening's conclusion unfolded exactly as Queen Elizabeth II intended when she touched her pearls 3 times. Within minutes, guests began receiving discreet indications that the formal portion of the evening was ending, but each departure felt natural and unhurried. International visitors left with positive impressions of British hospitality and concrete agreements for future cooperation. The Queen retired at her preferred time, having achieved all her diplomatic objectives while maintaining the traditions that have made royal dining a powerful tool of British diplomacy for over 2 centuries. The success of that evening's conclusion signals exemplified the sophisticated balance between tradition and innovation that characterizes modern royal protocol. Every guest departed feeling honored by their experience. Several important trade agreements were initiated during private conversations, and the Queen demonstrated once again how centuries-old traditions could adapt to serve contemporary diplomatic needs. The silent signals that had guided the entire evening represented far more than mere convenience or protocol. They embodied a living system of communication that continues to serve Britain's national interests while preserving the dignity and effectiveness that make the monarchy a valuable institution in the modern world.